It's there. Look at me.
So, I am Takuan Soho, and this is Kara Nodrik of Line by Line, Nonviolent Communication, Food for Thought. She's been a guest on my friend Agent's radio show many times, and it's always a pleasure to see the lovely Kara Nodrik. And I've talked to several very bright people that I've met on the internet. I've talked to Mark Lefebvre of Navigating Patterns. I've talked to Manuel Post of Agapic Orientation. Is that right? Forgive me if I have it wrong. And I've talked to Franz Nodrik. No, Franz Nodrik. trolling. See, I first I called Franz wrong, and then I called Nodrik Valeria. Oh my goodness. Anyways, we'll leave that in. But talking to Nerdal is because Nerdalian plebs is just so inappropriate for his Francois Lichtenstein. I talked to them all about the system. Oh, and also, sorry, Nodrik, I talked to Griswold Grimm. I don't even know what his channel is called. I think it's just Griswold Grimm. I've talked to all of them about the system, but the person that I've been very excited to talk to about the system is my dear friend Karen Nodrik, because I watched her talk about living in North America and living in the 80s and seeing the Reagan thing from this side of the continent of the world is unique. And so when I talked to Franz, we talked about, I have questions, and my questions are, I have a friend. She was Jade, she's now called Jade the Babe 3333 or something. I can't remember. Anyways, Jade the Babe, formerly Jade Love. She was on Kara Nodrik's Line by Line, one of Line by Line. Check it out. And she was very disturbed about this, what she sees as a system crash. And I'm starting to begin to wonder if maybe she was asking some valid questions. She's a social worker. She's very much part of the university and the social work department, very much into identity politics, and she's very woke. And at times she drives me fucking crazy. But she asked me, she says the system's broken. And I started asking questions. I said, is there an overarching system? Can a system crash? What is a system? So when I talked with Francois Lichtenstein, I don't even know, I may have his name wrong, for the best if I do. But and he talked to me before, so he had this immense encyclopedic knowledge of systems and whatever. But the thing that I was most interested in as I was talking to him was, what would it be like to live in a country where you have rolling electrical blackouts and, like, you know, so many national languages that you can't even organize your government properly? You know what I mean? And the thing that's fascinating with Kara Nodrik is that she hasn't, talking to her when she was talking with Paul Vanderklay, she talked about what it was like to live in the Soviet Union before. And the impression that we have in North America is different than what she experienced. She experienced a system crash like few of us in the West can ever understand, right? And a personal, but not only that, but Nodrik has many bright things to say. So I guess that's my roundabout rambling introduction of Kara. So Kara, how shall we proceed? Do you think there is a system? Can a system crash? And then also, our system is emergent. And I'll just let you take it, whatever thread you want, maybe even talk about like what the Soviet Union was like before and after. I mean, if you want to touch the personal route, I mean, I'm going to need you to rein me in. My brain is all over the place.
Okay, so I was born when Soviet Union was still pretty much a thing, and when I went to kindergarten, the literature that we got, kind of indoctrination that we got, everything was directed towards this beautiful, bright future where we will go and we will be Октябрята. This means October helpers, something, and pioneers. It's like useful members of society.
So is that kind of like what we'd have in North America, like scouts and beavers, maybe?
Something like that, yes. So Октябрята is before you become a pioneer. When you are too little, let's say, when you like up until you're maybe 6-7 years old, you are still that, and you get a little sign that has a young Vladimir Ilyich Lenin on it, with curly hair, smiling, and there you're Oktябрёнок. But when
You know
you're
what?
a pioneer, you would get a red scarf. Yeah.
I'm in kind of a scattered mode today, but I just want to say,
Mhm.
you know, as I had a sociology teacher, and he said that everyone should go through a communist phase. In Canada, this is what he said. We live in a socialist country. But the thing that always struck, I love like I don't know if anyone's seen any of my videos. There's this revolution will be televised, and it's Soviet style art, which also Jordan Peterson really likes. I always thought that Vladimir Ilyich Lenin was a very handsome looking man. I wonder if he was charismatic, you know, which is horrible to say. But as I got older, I got bald. The only thing that made me feel good is that maybe I could grow a cool goatee like Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. Hashtag not a communist.
Well, the thing is, we learned in a kindergarten that communism is good, and it's aspiring role model, young Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, that we would like to be like. And he had this very famous saying, his catchphrase, учиться, учиться и еще раз учиться. It's studying, studying, and one more, studying.
Oh, wow. I would have never thought that.
Yeah, you can also translate it learning, learning, and one more thing, learning. That's the catchphrase. It was written on a door. Very often, the monument of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin would show him looking very dreamy into the future, and sometimes point his hand towards the future, the bright future. So everything was goal oriented. We were educated very much to be useful members of society. Like as I mentioned before, homeless people did not exist at all. Like maybe they were taken somewhere, but like I was too little to know
Well, that's what
all
we were
of those
told.
details. Yes. Then society was based, like whatever we learned, if somebody falls out of line, let's say is an outlier, then the party has an intervention where they talk to a person. I'm not sure if there is public shaming involved, perhaps, because like I should ask my mom how exactly it was, but my mom was a rebel, so whatever we learned in kindergarten, then later in school,
So,
she would kind of put our perspective away from that. She was like, let's look at this from the other side, so I could always see a different story. Yeah.
there's a saying, I think it's a Chinese saying, the nail that sticks up must be hammered down. Please continue. Sorry, I jump in.
Yeah, that sounds very communistic. Yeah. So basically, the idea was the system was built this way. We have to have one way of thinking, and all of us follow one direction, which is bright future, innovation, going to space, like all of those, like prosperity. Everybody gets an apartment, everybody has education, everybody has social care. Like those actually were true back
Yes,
in the day.
so like
Yeah.
our propaganda said that long line Soviet Union has they can't get jeans, they can't get so designer jeans. We talk about black market, and they said, oh,
Mhm.
the lineups for bread and meat are crazy, and there's no bread or meat in the grocery stores.
Okay, those are special times, like time of poverty. They absolutely happened after the war. People could not get bread. There were long lines. I like in my time, it was not the case. I was a child like before the Soviet Union crashed. but it was like, I don't know, for quite some time, and there were times of poverty as well during that, where
Yeah,
people
I
actually,
guess
it was not always like that. It was not like,
I guess that would be no different than the West, right? We have depressions and recessions
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And maybe like, who's to say that the Soviet system wouldn't be, go through these fluctuations as well, right?
Yeah, the genes part is absolutely true, though. The American genes, it was contraband, basically. I grew up at the south with the international port. So the city I grew up is like Kherson. It has an international port where ships from Turkey can come and deliver things. So whoever was a friend of a captain, whoever had any connection, was actually able to receive the foreign goods, which was again, so the foreign goods, that was funny actually. Um, they were considered snobistic, like
Snobistic?
yeah, it's like, oh my god, you're a snob, you're wearing those, where, how did you get that? But
Oh, you're so
also
rich, which would not be
it
good.
also,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it also would mean that you have connections.
Oh,
So it was kind of a status thing, but if you do it too much, then there would be like people would tattletale on you, that you probably have connections to contraband and stuff like that. They would report
oh.
you somewhere. That was according to some stories. Again, too young to witness it personally. So I basically, I did not manage to get into pioneers stage. So Soviet Union collapsed when I was, I think, 6 or 7 years old.
So this would be where we're relevant to the topic at hand. The
Mhm.
system crashed with a little help from the
Yes.
West outspending them in military spending and them having to keep up with military spending. Well, that's the one theory. I don't know if that's the entire theory or if it's just the system. I mean,
I
Gorbachev,
mean,
what is your
mhm.
memory of Gorbachev?
Perestroika. It is a very famous word. So Gorbachev, uh, a son of combiner. So there was a machine combine, and that would plow the fields, let's say. He was the guy who actually come from a village. He walked barefoot on a field. He was a man of the people,
Ah,
and he absolutely respected work, hardworking people. They were like elevated to the next level of respect. If you're a
really?
farmer, you're extremely respectable. Yes.
Oh,
So
wow.
Gorbachev like was like, it was absolutely like, we would have programs of how glorifying fields of like weeds, bread, combines, tractors going into the field and showing with like epic music. I know one of the songs, which was like, I was singing with tears in my eyes.
Can I hear
I
a bit?
love it till this day. Okay. I will take the microphone here. Sorry. Okay. Как земля прекрасна, шум дубрав зеленых, белый снег ромашек, синий небосвод. Только хлеб высокий на полях рощёных мне милее краше всех земных красот. Поле, поле, волнами клубится.
So that is beautiful. And what was it about? Maybe like what are some of the lines?
Okay, the lines were, the earth is gorgeous, the fields of flowers are gorgeous, and the blue sky. But all of it is pale, compared to the fields of bread, like
Oh,
bread
wow.
wheat. And then there is like this pole. Pole is the field, fields, fields, fields of bread. So
That's wonderful.
uh,
So my first impression of Gorbachev, I think there was like Two Tribes Go to War. There was a song by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Very
mm,
controversial band. I don't remember if that was the video, or there's also Land of Confusion by Genesis. And in the propaganda political cartoons when Gorbachev first came up, that birthmark that he had on his head was portrayed as a continent, which was kind of like some kind of like domination or something like that, the evil Ruski, right?
mm,
Maybe. My memory may be wrong. But in later years of Gorbachev, he was viewed very positively in the West. But like him and Reagan, they kind of brought the peace to the end of the. They're at the beginning of the end of the Cold War, right? So so the system crashed, and I remember I was in the break room in the casino, and Yeltsin was on the tank, and I was just like this is one of those moments for me. Like I remember where I was when I wasn't alive when was I alive when Kennedy died? I
mhm,
think it was 68. But everyone says where they were when Kennedy died. I remember Reagan getting shot. I remember Princess Diana dying. I remember the Challenger, and I remember Yeltsin on that tank. And someone goes, "Oh, who is that?" And I'm like, "It's in Russia." And she's like, "Oh, did the good guys win?" And I kind of like laughed scornfully at her, like in a sense.
mm.
And but so what was your memory of Yeltsin? And when that would be the turning point of when the crash, right? Wouldn't it? Or no, is that
Yes.
my
So
perception?
hold on. I'm growing up in Ukraine at that time.
Oh,
It's
you were in
I'm
Ukraine.
yes.
Oh,
I'm
I thought you were in a port
okay.
city.
I should have started it. Is Kherson is Ukraine. It's
Oh,
south of Ukraine. Yes.
but it was part of the Soviet Union, so yeah.
It was a part of Soviet Union, so it was not yet kind of like I knew I'm in Ukraine, but I was a kid of Soviet Union, let's say. So
So
when
would
I
you
was
consider
born,
yourself
Soviet
Russian
Union,
or would you consider yourself Soviet?
neither actually. I like I'm neither Russian nor Soviet, and like most of my childhood I spent in Ukraine.
Hmm.
So I'm the closest to Ukrainians, but like if ethnicity, I would consider myself Tatar.
Oh, Tartar.
If you
Yeah.
would, yes, if you would ask the ethnicity, well, like I don't have that much Russian blood. I'm actually a mixture between Tatar and Estonian.
What is Tartar?
Uh,
I mean, on your teeth,
Tatar, Tatar?
right? In English, tartar is the yellow on your teeth.
Oh no, Tatar. It's
Which
a
you don't have, by the way, and I do.
uh, okay. So Tatar is a nation. Like they are kind of South Slavic, South
Hmm.
Slavic. It's uh, they
So being
yeah, they
Canadian, I
were part
apologize
of
for jumping ahead. So we have to get the story out of there. So sorry, I'll let
okay.
you continue.
So I'm growing up. So first of all, it was I was a child of Soviet Union and looking forward to this bright future with this beautiful leader Lenin, who is showing us the way. Everywhere is the monument. Everywhere in every institution there is a portrait of Lenin showing us the way. On a TV in a childhood kind of cartoons, they mention Lenin showing us the way as well. So it was like very much we have to think one direction and go the same direction, which is bright future. And like I was remember that and being useful, remember that. And then Soviet Union collapses, and I understand now that I'm not in Soviet Union, I'm in Ukraine. It's a different country, and even more so, it's a different language now
Wow.
because we used to speak Russian. It was like a common language,
Wow.
and then it becomes Ukrainian. So basically,
Wow.
in school, we got books in Ukrainian language. The things that we would learn, Russian would become a second language. Would learn it as a foreign language, but the first language would become Ukrainian. And so again, beautiful language, beautiful songs as well, because I like to sing performant. That's the thing. I learned Ukrainian because I didn't speak Ukrainian until I was 6. So I learned it at school. It became our first language. The education
I'm
was
6
in
years old.
Ukrainian.
So
Mhm.
I'm trying to think. Well, you don't have the grade system that we have in North America, so I don't know. Would that be preschool, kindergarten, grade 1, elementary school? I wonder. Anyway, someone could fast check it.
It was first grade.
First grade, okay.
First grade, yes. So in first grade, it was the system change, and the system changed like that. There is no bright future. The leader who used to show it to us, he's a bad guy now. And the teachers who like a year ago taught us that he's a good guy, they had to teach us that he's like, let's not learn about that. Now you got a different hero, and so there would be Taras Shevchenko. So the heroes would change.
Who's Shevchenko?
It's a writer. It's a Ukrainian, very much pro-Ukrainian writer. He became our new hero, like to us. And then I was like, how about the bright future? Oh, no, this we are shaping up. We are a young country. We are shaping it. And I was like, will we become pioneers? No, this is a bad thing now. Now you cannot be pioneers anymore.
So did you have any
I was
vision
like,
of what you could become other than like replace it, or was it just
no,
negative?
no, it just like whatever I was looking forward to disappeared, and the guy I was looking up to became a bad guy. More than
How did you
that,
feel
all
about
the
Taras
money.
Shevchenko? How did you feel about him?
Yeah, he was like they tried to elevate him to kind of similar level. He was a very compelling figure, well educated, extremely good writer. I like his writing, but he was it was a different thing. And like the basically the heroes changed. I'd say, like pretty later, like in history, we learned other heroes like Bogdan Khmelnytsky. He was also a fighter for freedom for Ukrainian nation, and they kind of they changed who children have to look up to and who are the good guys.
Do you know?
Um,
May I share a bit of my
yeah,
story? It's just to relate
sure.
to you. So, the hero from where I was born was Wayne Gretzky, who was a popular Ukrainian, and in the city that I grew
I
up,
know
the
him.
Champions was known for a lot of Ukrainians. So I have a great appreciation for pierogies and cabbage rolls. Oh, anyways, everything's about me. I'm just joking.
No, but so
No, that's fascinating. So yeah, your heroes changed.
heroes changed.
So did your heroes change,
Uh,
Sarah, or did you started to doubt
I
heroes?
mean, I wanted to say that my the shock was not as severe because I grew up to parents with a lot of critical thinking, extremely critical of actual Soviet regime as well. So I would hear the conversation, like for example, the Solzhenitsyn notes were in our home library. It's
Wow. The notes.
like, even though it
Would
was
that be contraband
forbidden.
at that time?
I mean, connections and stuff, but like it's the thing is like still to a child it was very shocking, let's say, to have everything changed and to suddenly have no future. For example, no future that is laid out in front of you. Like before that, I was convinced I'm going to this university, I will be a bookkeeper. That was the bright future that I imagined for myself, because I was exhibiting like some math talents, like science and stuff. We would have to know that in order to get to university, you have to jump through a lot of hoops, let's say, and your parents have to find a way to finance it as well. And now the finances thing that was a big shock. The moment system crashed, the money, all the money that people had in the bank became paper. There was no replacement. They just lost it. Like I'm not kidding. Whatever my family was gathering for years became paper, and the equivalent of it would be like 10 apartments and stuff like that. Like
So
we suffered massive financial loss due to that change, and no university anymore, basically.
I remember you talking in Paul Vanderklay's video, and I'm gonna put the link in the comments. You're talking about the swimming pool project that didn't get finished. You know, wow. You know, you're a child, you're looking forward to the swimming pool, and all of a sudden, what? How come these projects aren't getting finished? Wow. Yeah, so the system crashed, right? Wow.
A lot of people that think that when system crash, lots of people lost jobs. Like in the village near Kherson, where I grew up, there was a factory that was entirely financed by Soviet Union. And all of it, the moment funding stopped, the entire factory just stopped functioning. Like nothing. Like the new government was like, oh, we are busy doing other things. Just do something else, go work in the fields. And in that factory worked, it was a scientific thing designed to repopulate Black Sea with some fish. It had a lot of, like, my parents are ichthyologists, so they're scientists.
Really? Okay, yeah.
Ichthyologists, yes. They wanted to work on ship of Jacques-Yves Cousteau as young students, but then Soviet Union was like, no, you will be working in this factory, because everybody got a job. There were children, like if you get your university degree and you will be assigned a job, you don't have to look for one. Everything was pre-organized for you. That
like,
was the convenience.
So
Yeah.
like in North America, for me, everyone wants to be a doctor or a movie star or whatever. You can be whatever you want to be. No one wants to be a bookkeeper, and then there's look at that as almost a failure. But like, did you feel like in your culture, do you feel that was like you were looking to be a part of supporting your community, or like were the people unhappy to be assigned jobs? Some of them maybe.
The thing is, no, you can become whatever you want as long as it's you're supporting the community. Like I was good at two things, would be math and singing. So I was a performer, and I was good at numbers. And it was hard for me as a conscientious child to imagine, oh, I will be singer and everybody will love me. I would be like, no, I will be a bookkeeper and I will organize numbers for people or something like that.
And so
I remember, like, my dream changed after that.
So we were in the West, like if someone like Nadia Comaneci was loved in Canada, I don't know, maybe America. Do you remember her? She was a gymnast. I think she was Russian. Maybe I've got it wrong.
I don't remember her.
But anyways,
I remember Wayne
that the Russians were
Gretzky, but I
amazing
don't
at athletics. Someone showed promise, and the state would totally like, one of the great propaganda films about the Soviet Union was Rocky IV. Have you ever seen it?
Yes, that's one I have seen. Ivan Drago,
Like that's
by
the thing.
Dolph Lundgren.
We were told Russia has all this advanced technology, and you know what I mean, and like they're creating these amazing gymnasts, but it's all the state, manufacturing these.
I mean, the gymnasts were amazing, like training until the next level, but it was the training for the sake of training for the art itself. It was all in the head. Let's say it was my country will be proud of me, and then you have this almost religious goal. That is funny though, like religion was suppressed.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
that
It
one
was
was the
yes.
thing.
And that's
There
a
were
good
a lot of anti-religious propaganda as well in Soviet Union.
so like oh, there's so many questions and we're going so many ways. We're not even talking about the Soviet Union, but I'm completely enthralled in this. So we'll just continue.
So now I am in this position where there is new language, no more bright future to look toward, but everything has to be built and shaped, and everybody kind of in for themselves now. In a country where a lot of people lost jobs. So what started happening is in my school, parents were fighting at home and children were coming to school depressed and sad. And we started looking out for each other. We started talking, friendships started being very important because friendship became psychological counseling, basically. There were no psychological counselors. It was not a thing. School didn't have a psychological counselor. If you have a problem, you actually go to your friend or group of friends, you sit down and you talk it over. We would meet after school, just friends, and we would sit down and we would talk all the things that happen in our homes to our parents, like with us, how do we cope? Like if I know, like in my neighborhood, there was boys, like I had this really good close friend of mine, and his parents were fighting, like it was really bad. Like his mom was badly damaged, let's say, in those fights. And he would run away and hide in our room. He would climb into our room through the balcony, and we would harbor him, me and my sister. We would just like sit, the
So we
three of
talked about the
us.
beginning, and what we've had is a description of my original question: is there even an overarching system? So undeniably, the overarching system existed, right? There was an overarching system. It had a superstructure, as Marx would say, right? It had an idea, like the superstructure being the cultural thing of being a pioneer, utopia, working for a set of values, right?
Yes, and direction. We all work for this big building, this big bright future for everybody. And that direction was like I remember when we became independent, when Ukraine became Ukraine, let's say, independent of Russia, the direction became we will become part of Europe. And so that sounded like an awesome direction.
Could you, so sorry, could you repeat that?
So
That sounds, I'm shocked because you didn't want to become part of the Europe. You wanted to take over the world, I was told.
Well, Ukraine wanted to belong, like it's independent country.
Oh,
But
you mean afterwards? Afterwards.
yes. So when it became independent, they were like, where is the direction that our society is going? And one of that, we were building the communistic thing, but the communistic thing broke and it became like a bad thing. Like communism is bad, like there is new values now, everything changed. So the new system would be, or like the new direction that was being built, we would become European, free, like the clothes is not anymore contraband. We can get all the jeans we can and want from Poland. Sneakers started appearing on the shelves, like the chocolate bar. Like
But
we
before you
could
didn't have
go.
sneakers, but did you have meat and bread?
Yeah, there was abundance of food, at least when during Soviet Union. When Soviet Union broke, money disappeared. Everybody lost everything in the banks, just was gone. Like people became very poor, very depressed. It was horrible on them. but hey, you go now. You have a sneakers.
Nodrik.
Now you can get jeans.
So the listeners that are listening to this are probably going to be annoyed by my interruptions, but we have to take a break. I'm going to do some editing. It's going to be tough. I just need to go to the washroom, and my toilet is running. So I'm listening to you talk, and I'm listening to my toilet run, and it's driving me crazy. So this is fascinating. So I hope you don't mind. I apologize. Be right back. Sorry, Nodrik. Okay, so let's start. We took a mild break there. We're talking to Nodrik. Okay, sorry. Go. So Nodrik, my question originally was, is there an overarching system? Now, the reason that I asked that is because I live in the West, where we're taught that there's this free hand of the market, it's laissez-faire, all these emergent kind of different things kind of like somehow magically cooperate. And at one time it was called voodoo economics and or laissez-faire economics. And somehow, so because we believe that we're decentralized and the government stays that keeps its hand out of things, that there is no overarching system. But the fact that I even asked that question kind of reflects my cultural viewpoint versus yours. When I ask you that question, you're like, of course there's an overarching system. Is that correct in my assumption?
Yeah, always. Like there are super systems, but there are even systems being built in tiny communities. Everywhere there is a system. Like I can see a system in friendship marriages situation as well. But this is some conversation for another time, maybe. So what I wanted to say, I have seen as an observant with childhood mind everything that was happening. I was not feeling sorry for the bright future, the dreams, all of that, and Lenin. Not this did not bother me as much as the fact of my friends suffering. Like I was focused on my friends, and that system change, it damaged a lot of lives, and people had to rebuild from the beginning. And again, going to psychologist was not a thing. People found counsel in each other. That was extremely important, to know, to talk your problems, to be honest with yourself, to be honest with your friends. That was an emergent thing that thrived.
Yes. So in a sense, people think we need to change the system. We need to fix the system. We need to break the system. We need to fight the system. But in the end, the most important thing, what I'm hearing, is relationships and connections. What do you think?
We have to understand the system that is there and not let it damage our connections and relationships, but find a way to align it.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, There's so much to talk about. Like we could break this interview into like 12 parts. So then the system breaks, and I asked you about the turning point. Was Yeltsin on the tank for me. So you said emergent, and that's interesting too, because when a system, so Peterson kind of talks about how like the difference between like, because like many people try to portray him on the right or the left, but he sees like, like for instance, the way I view it from my perspective as a Westerner, you have like the laissez-faire system, free economics, the economic system, keep out the government out of it. But at the same time, when that becomes corrupt, then it becomes like the elite, people forming monopolies, and then the capitalist system doesn't work anymore. Now, that may not be a fault of capital, but on the other side, so we're taught that on the other side, you have the Soviet side or the communistic side, where it becomes stultified and it doesn't change and it doesn't grow or adapt. So what I'm wondering is like the system, what changes, what that thing that changes, like this, sometimes the system becomes outmoded or not able to adapt or becomes corrupt or becomes stultified. On one side, corruption, on one side, stultification. Does any of what I'm saying make any sense to you?
It does. I wanted to say, after collapse of one system, as the new system was emerging, and the things I was observing as a child is people gaming the system.
Oh,
So
that's fascinating.
there is a new type of players that appeared. One of them would be racketeers. It's people who would take, let's say, percentage of any business that starts, and business people who would, let's say, drive to Poland, bring some goods from Poland back to Ukraine and sell them in Ukraine. And racketeers would be the local guys who make sure that they themselves do not destroy your store.
Oh, wow.
Let's say.
Yeah.
That became the thing in the 90s. That's why they call them dark 90s. It's like the crime rose to a massive level.
That's fascinating. So now in the Soviet Union, there was probably people that took advantage of that system too, and that was like connections, right?
Yeah.
And influence peddling.
Yes. So people with connection. I remember there was this, let's say, businessman that emerged, who was bringing goods, like toasters from like cheap toasters from Romania, and into Romania they were getting through Poland and stuff like that. It's like, let's say, goods from Europe, and he was selling them 10 times the price to local people.
This is during the Soviet era.
No, post-Soviet. Like
Soviet.
during Soviet era, all the goods were Soviet goods, basically. The contraband was like under the table for a favor or something.
But it was smaller. It was always corruption.
Tiny.
Yeah,
it was tiny.
And
it
then
was
when
like
the system broke, it became
everywhere. Everybody who dreamed of jeans suddenly started like buying jeans. Let's say, if jeans was the luxury only for like, oh, she's the manager of a factory, so, and she, of course, her daughter wears jeans, like that thing became everybody can have it now. Everybody who isn't massively poor can afford it.
So is status became more important, do you think?
Status became before that, before the Soviet Union collapsed, status was how useful member of a society you are. After it collapsed in the 90s, it became how much stuff you have.
So now in the West, that kind of maps to me on like, like I know a lot of people really value Jordans, and I got a lot of kicks or whatever, and they'd be poor, but they'd have all these like great running shoes or something, right? You know what I mean?
Well, in the 90s, people would be starving, but having nice clothes to show others that they are they're not starving, let's say. So
And
the
we're
status would be to dress a golden chain,
yes.
to have Jordans, but not because they're comfortable. You can have even fake Jordans, but as long as it's written Nike on it or something. It's like, you can have Chinese Korean knockouts, because we had those as well after that. A lot of knockouts.
So post, sorry, I'm jumping. I want to let you continue.
What I wanted to say, direction changed, not this big bright future, but direction west, and west was presented to people as labels, a lot of labels. So people, because west is good, labels are good. IKEA was the absolute dream furniture for people. IKEA.
Oh, IKEA.
IKEA
It's
was
funny
the
because
dream
it's
furniture.
like processed wood or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the great thing about
And
IKEA is in North America, I don't know, have you ever been to an IKEA store?
many times.
Well, it's a maze, right? You can't get out. You have to walk through every section before you're allowed out.
I know, genius. And although I do know the shortcuts in my local IKEAs.
Because you grew up. No, sorry, this is a joke.
I mean, because I love it. I love it. I adore it. I know it's all the scandal with children making the furniture. I feel for them. I was one of the children working in the fields, picking up apples back in the day. So I do understand
That is the
childhood
fascinating
labor.
story. We'll have to talk about that another time, but yes.
Yeah, but by the way, in Soviet era, children also have to be useful members of society. So they worked. They
So you just
actually
sit and play
did
video games all day?
chores. No. I like to me, what I noticed the difference is people started relying on each other, valuing friendships more because of all the depression. We would actually seek each other's company for comforting, but also owning things became a big deal, and it became some status, let's say, sign. And what I find out, like there were stories of friends betraying each other for a label short or something like that, and it became twisted.
Yeah,
I could not understand.
people have been killed for Jordans in North America.
Yeah, that's what I observed. It's a big shame. And I understand there always this transaction period.
Transitionally.
And oh,
Or
transition
do you
period.
mean transaction?
No. I mean,
Yeah.
I meant transition period. I understand in between two ideological directions that the country may take, there should be this transition period,
Which
and
kind of reminds me,
that was a bumpy road.
I've been
Yeah.
really interested in Peterson. I bring him up, right?
Mhm.
I find him to be center left. Most people think he's not, but depending on which set of ideology you want or set of I don't know what the word is. I get my words wrong all the time. But order and chaos, right? So like this is the period, the transitional period was a period of chaos, do you think? When there was a system, the system changed, and the system is essentially held up primarily, what I'm thinking as you'd speak, by a set of values and a perspective of the future and something that provides the culture meaning. And then when that set of values changes, then there's chaos, lack of meaning, and then a new set of values. And the new set of values went from being progression, utopia, which we're taught in the West is idealistic and unattainable, to one of like labels or something, or some kind of like consumer. Would you say in the West we would call it consumerism? Do you think that would be an accurate description? Like you say labels, do you think consumerism would be
Yeah,
a good
I
word?
think
I don't
it's
know.
appropriate word. I think it's an appropriate word. There is another thing that lingered on from Soviet era, which I actually like. It persisted. it stayed through the system change, survived, which would be music industry.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
by the way, I'm sorry. This is like flawed, but my favorite band that I've discovered out of the Soviet Union that like probably doesn't even do the music that I love of theirs. Have you ever heard of On the Go? On dash the dash go. They're an indie Russian band, and I
Mm.
love them. But anyway, so yeah, I saw them. I was at work in a fast food industry, which was like considered like the end of your life in North America. Like the worst thing to happen to you would be to not become a doctor or something and end up selling French fries. And although paid the bills, and I met some wonderful people there, and again, connection and relationship fall in my story. But yeah, so like yeah, there's some great music out of the Soviet Union. That's fascinating.
In Soviet Union, people who do nothing, people who do not work, people who are burden on society, those were considered bad. Not, like those were considered shameful. But
So
people who
where
sell French fries, let's say people who work even as a like I don't know, dishwasher, guard, those were respectable. Like if you work, you're already respectable because you're a useful member of society. I still have it in my head, like it stayed, it lingered on.
so
Like when I see people who do nothing and just talk, like the leader, I was like, not a useful member of society. And I still have it. It's like it remained implanted for some reason.
so
Uh,
I have a question for you.
yeah.
In the Soviet era, what about artists and musicians? Those are the layabouts. Those are the like they're
So,
supported by the state or
okay. So
amazing classical musicians out of the Soviet Union, though. I have to admit that.
Musicians in Soviet era, there were like stars. There were people who speak like basically art. That would be Alla Pugacheva, Philip Kirkorov,
What were they
Leontiev,
like?
like all those.
Were they like classical or was there pop art in the Soviet Union too?
No, it's like pop music, just like wonderful voices, but pop music. It's a music that people would listen on Sunday, or like even it's there were celebrities. There were people that others would look up to,
And so,
kind
what
of.
values did they espouse? Like if you had one of these, give me an example of these celebrities.
Okay, for example, Alla Pugacheva married. She had like 3 marriages, and she kept getting herself younger and younger and younger husband. And her like latest husband was, I think, still is. I have to check if she's still alive. Sorry, I did not look up, but he was like 40 years younger than her or something like that. And she was like our equivalent of Cher.
Oh,
Let's say.
okay.
So she was that. She's
Did she get all the
then
plastic surgery and stuff too?
shit on like that shit a lot. And
That was
so
nope.
so they would even after Soviet Union collapsed, the music industry and the same star, they all remained stars. Everything was like the musicians were valued throughout the system change.
Wow.
People who were celebrities back then remain celebrities. The reason why I want to bring up the musicians, because to me, as a musician child, it was important because I had a useful societal role, which would be we would have on Sundays, instead of church, people would gather in a local club. And club would be a thing which looks like a theater. It has a cinema kind of like screen and a lot of seats, about 300 seats basically. Our local theater has about 300 seats, and it can be converted into a movie, into a stage, into anything. It's just like this one
Okay.
big giant place for people to gather, a replacement for church. And there would be always an organization. Every school would have to provide child stars.
Oh,
And there would be a specially designed music teacher who would actually work for free with child stars.
wow.
And so I was picked out from a crowd by a man who became my father figure, one of the best people I ever met in my life. So the previous child star before me was his daughter, who grew up and went to university. So she cannot be a local child star anymore.
So then what did she
So
do? She became a useful member of the community
of
through
course,
education.
yeah, like that was, but there would be more, like I would be the singer, but there would be other children who dance, let's say. And so they would give, we would give performances for the like old grandmothers, everybody who wants to come and look at children perform. And to me, it was amazing. I loved it. So I had my
So,
routine and
so
yeah.
that's fascinating. So like we're talking about the system, right? And we
So
kind of touched upon a set of values being part of a system,
mhm.
what people value. But then artists have a role in the system too, right? Like so like
Yeah.
and somehow artists are able to manage the chaos of the system. So are they articulating the voice of the people? Are they articulating? See, the way that we're taught in the West is that you would have, as an artist in the Soviet Union, been a propaganda puppet of the state. How would you view that statement?
Okay. So there are two things here. So the crowd was educated already by Soviet Union, was educated to value the artist.
Mm.
The crowd was educated. When the system broke, crowd is still in the mindset of valuing the artist. And now whoever controls the artist controls the crowd. So the singers, performers, stars became a valuable thing. And now, what happens with the singers? Singers start getting sponsors.
In the state, from the state,
Uh,
or after the state,
Mafia, you can get any sponsor you like, whoever wants to control the crowd, whoever wants to sell things.
So, but okay, wait, is this pre-Soviet or? I'm
So,
sorry, I'm slow.
okay, again, singers were the celebrities, even during Soviet Union time. If a good singer comes out, you sing on a radio, you have a special status. You're elevated to like a person with like
Was it
basically
was an artist allowed to
royalty.
express themselves as they wished?
To a certain extent, as long as they didn't get too much out of line. They didn't have absolute freedom, because if the artist expresses him or herself too much against the system, the artist is suppressed and taken down. It's not
And we say
showing.
that's
Like,
not the case in the West, but that was the case in the Soviet Union. But I don't know that
I
that's
am not sure. I'm not sure. I was a child back then. Like I can only say what happened afterwards. I knew that the crowd was used to receive a performance, and the crowd was counting on that performance of artists to take away the pain. So people have a
ah
lot of pain and depression, and
yes.
artists, and seeing a child sing a song, artists would take the pain away.
Mm.
So whoever controls the artist with the is the new emergent system. So there were people who are, let's say, selling jeans and stuff like that, but then there were people who are like, let me sponsor that artist, but in return that artist will sponsor something else, will promote something else.
Now I have a question for you. I
Mhm.
don't want to divert you, and please rein me in or interrupt me at will, because I seem to be doing that to you all the time. So
Mhm.
I'm wondering. So you have the state originally of contraband taking stuff from the West, and then you have artists and sponsors. Did that help promote the local industries then? Did they start to surface? Like local gene
Local
makers, like
industries.
local designers, local, instead of always buying from the States, or was it always still about labels and stuff?
They had their own. They had like their own levies, which was produced with like one different letter and stuff. It's like, yeah,
Anyways,
local thing was produced as well and promoted even by the artists. Like Made in Ukraine was a big deal.
oh, really?
Yeah, it was like Ukraine needed to like raise its economy somehow. And what I wanted to say with the artist thing, to me, it was shocking that I like could not get on stage anymore if I don't have a sponsor. Like I would always be reduced to performing in a local
This is
pub somewhere
this
when
is
I grew up.
this is how when you're older or previous. What era was this? I lost track. So like
Still, like it's already late 90s.
so after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
After the collapse of Soviet Union, like the thing that I liked most, the stage, I could not develop in my career as a singer because I did not want to be sponsored. So that's the thing. Uh, it was not the voice itself. It was not the talent itself. It all became kind of uh, connected to who finances whom.
This is after the, but that wasn't the case so much before under the Soviet.
Well, before that, like I was picked out of the crowd for being the best singer, and I was led by a teacher who actually took care of my voice, and he would like just for no like for the only art of entertaining the
So
crowd and making
so
their day better.
so in the
That was the
West,
only reason.
the idea is that the best artists will come because people will buy their albums, as opposed to the best artists will just be a product of the. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Lots of things to think about.
Well, I left. I left at the early 2000. I left Ukraine and came to Poland. I got into university in Poland, and I forgot about my dream to.
Wow. Okay, so how long was that? Because the recording
Excuse
just
me.
stopped. How long does it record for?
It can
And what do
record
I?
for as long as you like.
No. How long? So the recording stopped because it only records for so long because of my account. So how do I make sure it's on my hard
Really?
drive? Yeah,
Why? It didn't show anything to me.
it just said recording stopped.
Now it's recording again.
Okay. So where would that be recorded?
You will just have two different files now. It will have two
I just
different
don't want to lose
videos.
the file. I just don't want to lose the file. So
Okay.
so now all this experience. So I'm talking to Kara Nodrik. I'm Tachyon Soho, and I just like to hashtag the future. Me and Kara Nodrik are going to do a little fun thing about Tachyon Soho in the future. So watch for that. And that's just me trying to rope her into it. Tachyon Soho is mentoring the next Musashi. Or Takezo, as you would like to know, which is all probably part of my own delusion. But anyways, we're talking about Kara's experience in the Soviet Union. And it's so fascinating. I could hear her story. So let's kind of tie some of this stuff in. So the question was, is there an overarching system? And Kara is just it was like the water that she lived in the Soviet Union. The Soviet system was everywhere, was in the values, in the childhood she grew, in the jobs. It's like in the Matrix, you know, it's where you go when you take out your groceries. You know what I mean? And so there's obviously an overarching system. Would you agree?
Yes, yes. It
And
was
then
very obvious back then.
and then there's a period of chaos, and then the conditions change, and a new emergent system emerges. The old system became stultified or couldn't compete or whatever. I mean, some political science, someone more astute in political science than I could probably explore that. So we talk about your experience as the system change, and we talked about it in relation to art. And so the system change. So if we were to reduce it to something that we're more able to be tangible, we talk about the system, the art system, the entertainment system, so to speak, change. So instead of having like the sponsors of the state and encouraging the merit of young students and bringing them up through the system, I almost think of like in the 50s, we had the Mickey Mouse Club. And the Mickey Mouse Club had like young people like Annette Funicello and stuff, and maybe even like Britney Spears was like the latter end of that, you know, promoting these young stars or whatever, right? Like, yeah, I think of like in the West, I guess the equivalent to that, the capitalist version of what you experienced as a child star rising up through that system would have been Disney in the 50s, 60s, and Disney had problems in the 80s, obviously. So yeah, so there's obviously an emergent system, and you talked about like we talk about economics, and we talked about how like is the demand needed, like needs to be filled, then and the values changed, and then systems came to fulfill the values. Do you think that's right? Like the values changed, systems come to support whatever values. So under the Soviet thing, the value is progression, being a valuable member of society, which is all completely heretical, me saying this. Hashtag I'm a complete capitalist Democrat. But no, so that's fascinating. Kara, I'm rambling. I'm trying to tie some things together. Would you like to take the reins? Well,
Yeah, so you pretty nicely summarized it. And if you like, we can close it here.
no. I want to continue talking. Yeah. So systems can crash. Systems, you experience a system crash, and then you almost experience. Do you think when you went to Poland and when you lived through the Ukraine, did you see the system coming back together or functioning systems coming back together, or do you think that there's still a lot of chaos that never quite got managed?
Yeah, I'm so tired.
Okay, we'll save it for another time.
Yes, I can say for another. It's a very long recording. We started I can tell you.
Crazy. I don't know how I'm going to edit it. I don't know how we're going to have this chat, but
So we started. Oh, it's just an hour ago. 1.5
we're not
hour
even
ago.
recording now. We're not even recording now. Oh, you're
No,
recording.
we are recording. You're
Oh, okay.
recording. It will be 2 files. So let's close it up properly.
We'll say
With the
this is
Poland,
part one.
it will be part 2. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So let's we're gonna have to do some editing. Hopefully you can help. Maybe I should get you to edit it.
Dude, I have so much work.
Okay, I want all the stems though. So
Mm.
we have touched on so many great things, and a lot of it ended up bordering more on Kara's personal history of someone that had lived through a system change. And though it was not nearly as astute or technical as Franz's, it didn't quite have the ideological fervor of Mark Lefebvre, and it didn't have the playful banter and metaphysics of Griswold Grimm. It's still nonetheless fascinating in a sense that you can learn from non-fictional stories. You can learn from, but in a sense, this is I'm not saying that this is fictional, but this is almost a narrative. You know what I mean? Like Kara Nodrik's biography of living through change in the system. So we'll wrap it up with that. And I don't know that anyone listening to this will fucking find, part of my language, will find that this relates to the system, but I think there's threads here, and we'll maybe we'll tie it together better next time, and we'll continue talking about this again, because it's just the story is so pertinent to what we're going through. The original question of mine was, is the system broken? It relates to my culture, and I think it relates to all of us in the world, right? And Kara is someone that's gone through a system that was broken, and in the West, many people are wondering if the system is broken, and wondering if the system is crashing, wondering, and all of us throughout the world are beginning to see emergent systems arising, emergent systems crumbling, and now we're on the I'm a Gen Xer, and I lived through the Cold War, and now the millennials and I lived through globalization, and globalization was supposed to save us, and all these narratives. And Kara lived through the narrative of utopia and being a pioneer, and we've lived through all these narratives. And now the systems of the world are changing. The systems of the world are changing, and we will be given new narratives. And will we go? Is our system of order stultified and collapsing? Will there be a period of chaos? Will we emerge with a new order, or will we emerge beyond order? And I look forward to talking to Kara Nodrik in the future about this. And hopefully you can handle the meandering, my interruptions, and Kara's story. And hopefully we'll be able to tie it together in our next episode. That I want.
Thank you.
So let's yeah, there we go. Thank you. So
It was a pleasure.
I want to set a date for when we can do our acting thing. It'll be funny.
Do you want to do recording stuff?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
press on the button.